Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Q&A. Thank you so much to everybody who got their questions in last week. I've added a few questions from some of the other videos that I've done during the week to this. As always, if you've got questions for next week, get them in the video description. I would love to hear from you guys. Or if you don't want your question to be public, you can send me a message through my Facebook page, and I swear I won't rat you out and tell everybody your name. So either leave a comment, get in touch with me over Facebook. For now, let's get into the questions, but there is just one thing. The tea cozy. Let's go. So can you get SRV sounds with a JDM45? I see absolutely no reason why not. The JDM45 does a great Fender style clean sound. After all, it's essentially a Bassman circuit. What you would need to get if you want the Stevie tone, obviously, is to have your Strat set up the right way. You know, use heavy gauge strings, tune down half a step, probably play with quite a high action, get the appropriate pickups. Texas Specials are a good starting point, I guess, and use 15-inch speakers, because Stevie, I think he was kind of famous for using a vibroverb with 15, so they will be a big part of the sound. And of course, like, just do your research and do your practice so that you can figure out how to play like that guy and get that sound, because he was 1 in 10 billion, that guy. He was an absolute monster. Okay, did I like the Boss DD500 or the Timeline better? To me, they are slightly different machines, even though they're both in that mega delay pedal kind of category. To me, the Timeline I found slightly more inspiring to use. The factory presets and the knob layout was a little bit more grab and go. Really easy to get a great sound out of that thing. And the DD500 was pretty easy to get a great sound out of, but I felt like I got the most out of it when I got in and did some deep editing. For example, setting up like the circular delays, and the multi-tap delay in there is really great, and a couple of other features in there that you really have to kind of know what's going on. The DD500 to me is like, it's a really nice rack delay in pedal format, whereas the Timeline is like the pinnacle of pedal delays. So I liked both for different reasons, and I really like the Eventide time factor, or the H9 as well. So out of those three, I think you'd be pretty sorted for delay, whichever one you choose. So I've had a few comments on a video that I did demoing the Fremen AX8 presets, and I was borrowing my friend's Jeff Beck Strat when I was doing that, and it was set up perfectly to do the Jeff Beck warble thing, and I probably overdid it a little bit, but I'm kind of enjoying how many people are like, "Oi, you're not Jeff Beck, bro. Oi, stop it." And who are you, or who am I to tell anybody what to do when they're playing guitar and trying to express themselves? Telling somebody to stop doing something, I think, is pretty bad form. And watching back on the video, I was laughing. I was like, man, yeah, I'm kind of overdoing that. But yeah, to anybody who tells me not to do something, you kind of inspire me to want to do it more. So I want to set up one of my guitars to be able to do that, and I will do the ultimate video to trem, gargle, or whatever you want to call that noise, the seagull noise. So, and how to use it as tastelessly as possible. So thanks for all the great feedback. To those of you who noticed a couple of my videos last week, the frame rate was just absolutely sucking. It was like down at like 13 or 20 or something, so there's a lot of lag and things like that. And now, it's a lot better. The mistake that I made, I went to my normal camera settings and I was like, oh, this should be good. And I've got this new camera, the EOS M50 by Canon, and I was kind of adjusting the brightness, and I was like, gee, it's a really low frame rate. I wonder why that's happening. And I had bought a UV filter, actually. It's right here. I got this Inca UV filter, which is really good. Like, it's great for doing stuff outside, which I wanted to do. And let me just show you guys what it does. Pretty much that. So, and depending on, if you look at the computer screen, you can twist it and block it out. But that's what this filter was doing. I just forgot that I had it on. So I spent a lot of time being like, man, how am I going to get around this? And yeah, my bad. Any luck finding a Big Sky to compare to the Fractal devices? Not yet. I figured somebody would have a Big Sky that I know, and I mean, I haven't asked many people, but I think I have to do it. I even posted in one of the local Facebook groups, like, hey, does anybody have a Big Sky that they can lend me for like a night? It doesn't take me long to do demo stuff. And no luck so far with the Big Sky. I really want to try one out. I don't really want to go out and buy one yet. I might do it and then flip it or something if I can find one cheap. But yeah, if anybody out there is anywhere near Perth and they have a Strymon Big Sky they want to lend me, I will do the demo video and I'll make you a cup of tea, which I think that's a pretty good deal. Come around, hang out, play some guitars, I'll make you a cup of tea, demo the Big Sky. it's a pretty amazing sounding device, so I'd love to be able to match some of the sounds with the AX8, if it's possible, or with the Axe FX3. So no luck with the Big Sky yet, but I'm going to try a little bit harder. Another reverb I really want to try out is the Meris, I forget what they call it. It's whatever their reverb pedal is, but it's kind of like it can do the Blade Runner sort of sound, which is pretty awesome. So I mean, I'm not a huge reverb guy. The stuff in the like Axe FX, I really like the Ice Castle and the South Church and just the standard like recording studio reverb and the London Plate. So I use those a whole lot, but they're not sort of the you know, the classic Big Sky ambient sort of thing. But yeah, as I said, I'll try a little bit harder. Hopefully, before the end of the year, I'll get my hands on a Big Sky and shoot it out. Have I tried a Marshall DSL-100H, and can I demo one? I have tried one. I think, where did we play a few years ago? I think we played at Vamped in Vegas, and their backline was I think they had a 2203 and they had a DSL-100H. And that was the first time I tried one of them, and I was just like, oh, I like the DSL. It's kind of, I'm familiar with that amp, so I'll use it. And we were setting up for the gig and sound checking, and I went up to it and I was like, whoa, this isn't the same amp that I own. It's got a depth knob. So I thought that was pretty cool. It worked great as a backline amp. It's probably one of the better gigs I've done with backline gear, but I haven't had a chance to get one here at the studio. I don't know anyone who owns one. So again, if you're listening and you're near me, you've got a DSL-100H you want to loan me, I'll make you a cup of tea. You can come and hang out and play some guitar. What a great deal. But yeah, my initial impression was that it was pretty good, and it sounded like a DSL. It'd be nice to shoot it out with my JCM 2000 though. So yeah, again, that's another one on the bucket list of things to demo. Just like the Marshall Origin 50 that people have been asking about. I'm hitting up the Mega guys about once a month saying, hey, have you guys got the Origin 50 head in stock yet? And you know, one disadvantage of being the most isolated city on the most isolated continent in the world is that, yeah, it's kind of hard to get your hands on stuff sometimes, but hopefully both of those at some point. Hopefully. Said hopefully a lot. Hopefully. So if I'm dialing in presets on the Atom A7X monitors, what tweaks do I make when I take my AX8 to a gig, if any? I really like the Atoms because when I dial in a sound on them, I can really push them and get an idea of what it's going to be like at gig style volumes. Because they're, you know, near field monitors, I can sort of get in and really crank it, and they've got a lot of detail and things like that that I like. I do find they translate really well to live gigs, and a lot of the time I don't touch the global EQ or anything like that. One thing that I do is that if I'm using a real guitar cab, for example, I'll obviously disable the cab sims in the AX8, but I will replace the cab sim with a parametric EQ, and I will high pass at about 80 Hertz, and I'll low pass somewhere between 6500 and 7500 Hertz. And I find that it just makes it sound a little bit more like a real head, which is kind of cool. So that parametric EQ trick in patches that I have set up for a power amp and a cab really does the trick. And then otherwise, if I'm going direct to the PA, I just let the sound guy EQ it at the board, and a lot of the time they don't have to do a lot. So that's always a good sign. That's why I like the Atoms. That's why I like the AX8. So David M had a question about Pro Tools and about punching in and doing parts of a take. I guess in the video that I did earlier in the week, I was showing you guys sort of my studio workflow where I was recording a riff, going back and doing a few takes. Ideally, when I'm doing a whole song, I normally do it section by section. If I'm doing a demo, I'll like play through the whole thing, and then I'll go back and I'll just punch in any tiny little bits, or in my case, sometimes very major bits that I played wrong. And that's, you know, any modern DAW or DAW, whatever you want to call it. DAW always reminds me of that thing that, you know, you hang on a door frame to like cover up holes in a wall or something. So DAW, your digital audio workstation, can do all of this, whether you're using Reaper or Cubase or, you know, PreSonus or whatever your DAW of choice is. Most of them have amazing punch in and punch out and editing options and stretching stuff. So I really like, I'm just used to Pro Tools, so I learnt on it, and, you know, I just want to play guitar, so I try not to spend too much time with that kind of stuff. I just want to play guitar, but here I am answering your questions. What a hypocrite. But yeah, I'm a Pro Tools guy. For better or for worse, it's actually been pretty good for what I'm doing, but if you're getting into it, have a look at all the other options, consider what works best for you. And a lot of people seem to be loving Reaper at the moment, and I tried it, and yeah, I was like, you know what? I don't think I have time to learn another one of these. I'm just going to stick with Pro Tools. But Reaper's a popular choice. Logic, obviously, all the other ones, they can all do all the fine detail editing and punch in stuff. So the gist of this question is essentially, what amps do I like to blend in the Axe FX3? And the person asking the question, their name was Scott T. Do lots of people call you Scotty? And sort of like, anyway, sorry man. Great question. He was talking about blending the Dr. Z and the 2C++ with a 4x12 V30 impulse. I haven't tried that, but that sounds pretty awesome. One of my favorite ones is actually the Bogner Überschall, which is kind of like a cross between a Marshall and a rectifier, and then blending that with the Cameron Atomica. So basically the Uber I set up for lots of low end and low mids and like a sort of scooped chunky tone, and then I'll blend the mid-heavy Atomica in with that. One thing that I really like to do, and I think makes quite a big difference, is that what I like to do is rather than blend the two amps into one cabinet block, is to use a separate amp and cab. So for example, the Überschall going into like a 4x12 V30 IR that I shot, and then the Atomica going into a greenback impulse, and then blending those two sounds. I found I got better results doing it that way. If you go and watch my video, which is my recording preset, I talk about that a little bit and break it down. So that's one of my favorite combos. Another thing that I think is really cool is if you're doing a clean sound, take two Fender amps, for example, you know, if you wanted to do the SRV thing, take two Vibroverb models and just EQ them slightly differently. So one's slightly dirtier than the other, and pan them hard left and hard right, and it's bliss for clean sounds. You get this like really wide, fat kind of thing. So yeah, otherwise, I mean, most of the time I just use a single amp and a single cab. I think there's so many great sounding amps. The Atomica, the 2C++, the rectifiers are great. But essentially the idea would be, yeah, go for more of a mid-scooped amp together with a mid-heavy amp, or two amps which are the same amp model, set slightly differently and panned. They're my two favorite approaches on the XFX3. I realized I missed a couple of questions while I was editing this. So, one question, how do I get a DD3 sound out of the Boss DD20? My guess is just use the standard digital mode. That to me is pretty much just the stock Boss delay. And then somebody asked regarding the DD20 what the modulate setting is based around, and I actually have no idea. So if anybody out there knows what the Boss DD20 modulate setting, the bass delay mode that it's based on, let me know, because I'd love to know. It kind of sounds like just a standard digital, but it might be the analog mode. Either way, it sounds really good. And the last one was comparing the Rocktron Piranha and the PV Rockmaster. So down in my Rack-a-Doom down here, which the lighting is probably terrible right there. PV Rockmaster, essentially it is a 3-band all-tube preamp with 4 preamps. I always remember there was a website extolling the virtues of the Rockmaster over the JMP1. And then the Rocktron Piranha, which is digitally controlled. The big difference, sorry, I'll come back into the light. The big difference for me is that the PV has an active EQ section, so on the distorted channels anyway, which is pretty cool. It means you can get really drastic, radical cuts and things like that. And to me, it's like a 5150 light. It's kind of got the 5150 thing happening, but it's got its own character. It's a little bit more of an 80s thing. And then the Rockmaster, the big advantage is that it's got parametric mids. So if you want to kind of do like a boogie thing, it can do that. You can scoop out like 600 to 800 hertz. If you want more of a Marshall thing, you can push the higher frequencies, well, the higher mids anyway. So I really like the parametric mids on the Piranha for that reason. To me, the Rockmaster is a sound of like late 80s, early 90s thrash and metal, whereas the Piranha is more of a, that's surprisingly kind of like that big, hairy kind of guitar sound. So think, you know, to me, it's sort of like a cross between a Stone Temple Pilots grungy kind of thing. It can definitely do that, and maybe like George Lynch or something like that. It's got more of the 80s hair rather than the 80s scooped thing. But as I said, you can kind of make it really smooth. So the Piranha is probably a little bit more versatile, but the Rockmaster, it just does what it does really well. They're both great preamps. You can find them really cheap. If you see either of them for a good price, pick one up because I really like them. Hopefully, that covers the questions I missed. Okay, so in the tone match section, go across from capture, go down to mode and select, instead of live, use offline. And then what you want to do is your reference channel, you want to be, let's see, leave that as it is. Where is it? Ah, yeah, reference source. Instead of input 1, I mean, it depends if you're, you know, routing audio from another interface or anything, set it to the relevant input. But if you're using the Axe 3 as your interface, you probably want to set it to USB It's one of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, 8. I think 5, 6 is always the DI guitar from your DAW, so it might be 1 or 2, or I actually can't remember off the top of my head, so I'll remember. I should have thought that out before I did this. Anyway, that is how you would go about doing a tone match to a pre-recorded guitar. Kind of. All right, I had a little visit from probably my favorite, not even subscriber, just every now and then this guy pops up and leaves some comments. So if you're watching this, Drain77, you bring a lot of joy to my life, and I love reading your comments, even though they kind of don't make sense. So I just want to read you guys this one. This was on my comparison between the JCM 2000 and the JCM 800. I quote, "The JCM makes 4 notes out of the speaker when you play 1 note. One of those 4 notes is always clean sounding, no matter what you do. When you're playing and you turn down the 2000 era Gibson Guitars tone control," so I'm into Gibson Guitars now, and he had tones in capitals, so I imagine him shouting it, kind of like 2000 era Gibson Guitars tone control. 2 out of the 4 notes for each note you play act as a volume control, so they actually turn up or down in volume, while the other 2 notes change distortion type as you change the tone from the guitar, which has the overall effect of converting the 1 input amp into a 2 input amp with real-time in mid-song adjustment feature for the player of the amp. Based on this knowledge, you should begin to realize the 800 amp is massively different from the 2000 amp and all the single input amps. I kind of figured that, but for different reasons. I'll talk about it in a second. The same era as the amp, Gibson Guitars tone control controls distortion type of sound from the single input Marshall amp. The tone adjustment feature was converted by Marshall to adjust distortion style as the player is playing. It no longer adjusts note dullness, so we're getting note dullness in there. You know, my background is as an academic, so I like definitions for all of these when I'm reading a paper. The tone control replaces the multi-input feature on the amp. So, yeah, Drain, if you're watching this and you want to clarify, have a crack at it, but I think what he's trying to say is that on a 4-input amp, you have like different capacitors on there, you know, different kind of bright caps. So when you use the tone control on your guitar into a 1-input amp, what you're doing essentially is it's sort of acting like a different bright cap, maybe? I don't know, but can someone help me out here? Can someone translate that? Or Drain, if you're watching, please get in. Anyway, I find your comments really entertaining, and you know, they don't keep me awake at night, but I do enjoy reading them, trying to make sense of them. So that is the comment of the week, and new little feature for you guys. I want to show you guys the lick of the week. Okay, one last little segment. Here is my lick of the week. This is an Yngwie style pattern, which is based around a G-sharp diminished 7th arpeggio. So the outline would essentially be this. On the low string, it's 4 and 7, and then you're going to move that up 1 fret at a time, obviously except for the B string where you'll move it up 2 frets at a time, so like this. So that is the outline, and what we're going to do is fill that in with the harmonic minor scale notes. So essentially we get this octave pattern. It's going to be a pattern of 6 on the high E string. It would be 13, 10, 12, 13, 12, 10. So, and then on, I'm a little bit out of tune, apologize about that. On the B string it would be 12, 9, 10, 12, 10, 9. And then we're going to go ahead and repeat that in octaves. So, and with the picking, if you subscribe to the sort of Troy Grady school of pick slanting, every one of those licks finishes with an upstroke. So you want to angle your pick, kind of slant it downwards, and you get this. And I realize you can't even see my picking hand there, so it would be like this. And yeah, practice that with a metronome. If you want to upload a video of you doing it, tag me in it. I would love to see it. That's my Q&A and lick of the week for this week. If you guys have questions for next week, get them in the comments. Until then, practice some Yngwie licks, and I'll see you next week.